Hello and welcome to Impactful Innovation with Commercis. I'm David McClelland, and over the course of this podcast series, we're going to be telling the story of the surprising ways in which technology innovation is profoundly impacting our lives, our work, and the world around us. And we're not just about innovation in the places where we might expect to find it. Digital doesn't only happen on the west coast of America, Northern Europe, or in East Asia. We're going to be shining a light on impactful innovations from all around the world, particularly in areas where one might think of as underserved by information communication technology. And information doesn't come without its challenges, of course. From climate impact to cyber attacks, we'll be tackling head-on the risks that come alongside the rewards. And we'll also be looking beyond today's technology to the cutting edge of what's coming next. What does processing look like beyond silicon chips? How do biomimicking digital brains work? And much, much more. As a technology reporter and former IT professional, I myself have been on a lifelong journey of discovery and have seen at first hand how innovations in a science lab or in the data center can quickly make an impact on business and society at large. So, with the help of guests from all across the world and some experts right here in the studio, we'll be zooming out to get a grasp of the bigger picture and zooming right in to hear the stories from those at the front line of impactful innovation. And joining me in the studio to help set the scene for the series is somebody who has, over a number of decades, played an important part in bringing impactful technology innovations to life in various parts of the world, especially in Africa and the Middle East. Chief Strategy and Commercial Officer at Commercis, Steve Tunnicliffe. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, David.
Now, Steve, you have been on a technology journey yourself, and we've got this exciting technology, impactful innovation journey ahead in this series. What would you say, from your experience, is the foundational set of technologies? You know, we can talk about innovation all we like, but there are going to be some underpinning foundational blocks without which none of this exciting, impactful innovation can spring to life. What would you say those are for you?
Yeah, I think for me, fundamentally, the one technology that underpins everything is really the network. It's connectivity. I think we take for granted in North America, in Europe, and maybe other parts of the world, the extent to which our world is connected, the way in which we as individuals are connected. But there are many parts of the world that continue to be underserved today. And it's really about that connectivity that brings everything together and makes everything work.
It's easy to think of connectivity extending as far as the devices, you know, our smartphones, our watches, or even our cars these days. But actually, I think connectivity is about connecting people. You know, if I lose signal on my phone, then it's me that feels disconnected. I'm the one that feels the impact of that lack of connection. And like you say, it's a very uneven world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I mean, as you correctly point out, 20 years ago, we didn't really have mobile phones, or they weren't as prevalent as they are today. Yet today, they're an integral part of us. They're part of our identity. We have IDs on our phones that connect us to our bank, for example. Connectivity is absolutely the bedrock. And as you say, we have a personal connection with our devices, which to a large extent we take for granted in the environment in Europe, in London. But if you're living in a much more remote area, they continue to be important. Certain parts of the world, you can't really do your banking without a phone. Yeah, so they are intrinsic to our lives, or rather, the network, the connectivity is intrinsic to our lives, and without it, you can have data centers, but they won't necessarily mean very much without that connectivity.
And it creates that platform for all of these other exciting innovations that we're going to be talking about. And trust me, we've got everything from AI to next generation processors and so on. We're going to use a lot of metaphors, I can tell, in this series. And I've been thinking about the network as kind of this nervous system. It's this backbone of communications, or the nerves in a human body. And without those, things just don't really work very well.
No, not at all. And I think actually we are at, and this is what's exciting and why it's exciting to do this thought leadership series. We're at a tipping point right now. We've got so much technological innovation coming down the pipe that our world is going to change again quite phenomenally. It's not too long ago that we were talking about the migration from 2G to 3G, for example. Many regions around the world skipped 3G and moved straight to 4G. Yeah, and we're continuing to evolve at such a fast rate.
Those Gs that you mentioned, they used to come around every decade or so, and they still do come around every decade. We're midway today through the 5G cycle, looking ahead to what 6G will mean, but it almost seems as though they're not coming around fast enough. Innovation is accelerating, maybe in some ways faster than the physical infrastructure is, and some of the regulations are able to keep up with it.
Yeah, that's very true. Again, goes back to the network. We fundamentally need much more homogeneity of the network around the world. We also need, obviously, we need capabilities such as data centers, not just in Frankfurt or London. We need them at the edge as well. So there's going to be some fundamental changes that are required to help accelerate our technology transformation.
Absolutely. And of course, later on in this series, we'll be exploring the full gamut of these future networks, whether it's a 6G, non-terrestrial network, subsea, the whole lot. Lots to look forward to there. But Steve, thanks for now. Time now to hear from our next guest. And we're going to zoom in on one particular location where technology is having a profound and perhaps surprising impact: Somalia in Eastern Africa. Ali Warsame, thank you very much indeed for joining us. As the former CEO of a mobile network, Golis Telecom in Somalia, what would you say are the key milestones that you reflect on in the evolution of communications technology, where its impact on society, on the economy, and on citizens became most strongly apparent for you?
Thank you very much, David. Actually, for someone who worked for the communication industry, especially in the telecom industry, I really sometimes feel pain when I see the picture that's painted about Somalia in terms of the security, education, stability, other things. But from my end, I have seen many things that's very, very wonderful for the world to know, specifically in the communication industry. As you know, statistically, Somalia, every one of 3 persons access internet. That is roughly 27-28%. But having a mobile and having internet are different in Somalia. Why? Because in Somalia, mobile services is used for financial services and access of networks without even having an internet. That's why World Bank and other international organizations say almost 80% of Somali adults have a mobile. And 82% of this 80 use mobile for the financial services. For your information, in Somalia, we don't use currency. Somali currency is highly devalued and economy is dollarized. So in Somalia, it's prevalent. It's exceptional in Africa where we use a digital money. I might not touch a currency for almost 2-3 years. And all my transactions go through mobile network. So you sometimes need to have internet to access that service, but bulk of the time, you don't need an internet. So almost 82% of the adults use mobile services for access of financial services. We have what's called Burmani's banking, which is to use your mobile for all your financial transactions. You don't need to have internet to access that service. So this is one of the impacts. If you want to buy a shirt or you wanted to call a taxi the way, or you wanted to, pay a cup of tea, you have to use your mobile, even without needing to use an internet, because you need the local networks. So that's one main impact that the mobile and communication industry in general made it. The other one is many people who doesn't have access to financial banking or the regulatory banking system use mobile phones and communication and internet for accessing the market. So it provides inclusivity, especially women who control the minor businesses or the small businesses. They use their mobile to order, to receive payments, and to pay their suppliers. So this is another impact of social inclusivity, including women. The other area that it has impacted is the lack, since we don't have a cash or currency, we use the digital mobile. And at the end, communication industry had made Somalia to be connected to the world, especially, as I say, every 3 persons, one of them access internet, and it's considered the cheapest in Africa.
It strikes me, for a country that's experienced, as you allude to there, some turmoil in recent decades, mobile communications, as you paint the picture there, it's emerged as a sort of economic and maybe even societal glue for what is otherwise or could otherwise be quite a fragmented region. Would you agree?
100%, because I experienced firsthand how a lady in the remote side of Puntland or Somalia can talk to someone, wholesaler in Bosaso, 200 and 300 kilometers away, place her order, send it with the money, and receive the calls without moving even 1 inch. So that's how it connects the society in our side. And I think it will do more as time passes.
And interestingly enough, the fee, the price of an internet connection and using mobile there where you are, it's not only some of the cheapest in Africa, it's amongst the cheapest in the world as well. I find that incredible. And it is, like you say, a real enabler of social mobility, of economic mobility, an enabler of entrepreneurship as well, just because the price of access is so very low.
I think that's absolutely a good characterization of the situation here. Although the economic side, people, are tended to be poorer than the rest of the world, but because they get a cheap internet, it enabled them to, or let's say a telecommunication network. It enabled them to be connected to their parents, to their loved ones, to their families. Even when I'm where I am now in Garowe, and I get it the way which is the Uber taxi in my area, I can share the information of that rental contract with my immediate family or with my children. So it enabled the society actually, and although it's not that very cheap, but compared to the rest of Africa, we are enjoying it. And one point is important, David, to have a connection to the local network. You don't need to have an internet. Mm-hmm. You need to have access link to the telecom company. So even if you don't have a smartphone, you can use your small one for financial services, for calling and receiving and texting. So sometimes you don't even use the internet and you can access all these services.
What other examples outside of commerce, for example, have you witnessed this positive impact of communications technology? I'm thinking about things like education, accessibility, and so on.
Actually, yes. One of the key areas that the telecommunication advantage is very clear is the education, especially after COVID-19, where the students were not able to attend the classes. The universities and higher education here, and even the secondary levels, adapted the technology. And many lessons are provided to students either online. I did myself. I delivered most of my recent courses online. And I was even delivering when I was traveling, while my students, I can interact with my students. So it's very, very apparent. actually the impact of communication in the education sector. In the health sector also, it's also feasible. And the other thing is that in Somalia, we are getting difficult of the physical libraries. We don't have library everywhere. We don't have enough books for the students. So we supplement it on the digital information, whereby we share the books we are using as a texts and references with our students. And even some universities, they provide free internet within the premises of the university. So a student can either use accessing their laptop or with their tablet or with their mobile. So also, instead of giving anyone a book, a textbook, which is very, very difficult here, or going to the library, students can access the university library or the internet library, or the teachers provide resources virtually, and they can benefit in that area. So this is another area that is really impacted for the society beyond the money and telecommunication.
And are there any ways in which government administration, for example, is also being able to use communications technology to benefit civil society?
Actually, yes. One example I can give you is the registration of the vehicles. Every vehicle has to have a plate number, and it will be taxed, and it will undergo a MOT, and one is in every year. And we are taxed digitally. That means all we need is that we provide our information to the government office, and they do the necessary registration. We pay the fees, and we pay the fees by virtually, and we receive the sticker which we put in our cars. So it actually made them easy to tax your car. Another area is the land registration. In Somalia especially, there is a lot of problems arising from the property ownership, since real estate and land is highly valued. So the government, devised what's called GPS location of your premises. So once you get that GPS, then you are the owner, and you are the only owner. And whenever you go, that GPS location within the database of the municipality, local municipality, provide you the assurance, like the deed title of your property. So that's also another impact.
As we know, Ali, technology doesn't stand still. So looking forward, what is your biggest hope?
I see communication advancement for many benefits. As I said, financial side, financial inclusivity, education, health sector, government uses all these things to be advanced, devised, and made available. I see a potential for everyone. The artificial intelligence is also another area which is coming to my mind. And nowadays, even the classrooms are becoming simpler, preparing your CV and going to write a lecture is becoming even easier. And the access of fast information available globally is positively impacting our lives.
Ali Warsame, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much for David for having me.
And Steve Tunnicliffe is still here in the studio. Steve, some really interesting insights there from Ali. And I know that you're very familiar indeed with Somalia and the region. A lot of political, environmental, economic challenges there over the last few decades, of course. But what are your reflections on the impact, on the role that communications technology has had over the last, say, decade and a half to support growth, to support stability in the region?
Absolutely. I mean, I think first and foremost, it's all about connecting people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really very much at its core. But I think just, going a little bit beyond that, it's hugely important. Connectivity is hugely important to enable people to go about their business, to do their banking. It's also hugely important from a public security and safety perspective as well. So there's a program currently to roll out a national ID card system. Connectivity will be fundamental in enabling that and making that happen and keeping people safe. So it's hugely important. But I think the other dimension, the other aspect which is really valuable is it creates the economic environment for businesses to flourish. Without connectivity, businesses will struggle to trade. So it's hugely important from that perspective, and really would give the country the potential to unlock so much business and so much value.
It's drawing a line there, isn't it, between connectivity and prosperity for individuals, but also for enterprises as well.
Absolutely. And I think the faster that the network, if you like, can roll out across the country, adopt new standards, technologies, capabilities, the quicker it will be able to take advantage of that and flourish.
Let's take a bit of a step back, a bit more of a global view, if you like. We've spoken about the network as this backbone. I'm going to switch metaphors now to a kind of a platform or a springboard, maybe. The network as enabling these other innovations. So what are some of the other innovations that are on your radar as really enabling positive impacts around the world?
Yes, so we've got new technologies that we perhaps are beginning to start to take for granted in Europe and North America. We talk about artificial intelligence. People are using ChatGPT and so on and so forth. That's a capability that fundamentally depends on a network. It depends on data centers. It depends on really good connectivity, cross-site connectivity, cross-network connectivity. That needs to be much more uniformly deployed in effect across the world for different countries, irrespective of their geography, to take advantage of that capability.
And just to mix metaphors, because I can one more time, I suppose, you speak about the connectivity being important there. The data itself, that is what, if we look at our nervous system, the network being our nervous system, those pulses that go across the nervous system, it's the data. And that is an important thing because, how quickly those pulses of data are communicated, how much data can move quickly from one place to another. But then also when that data is at rest, the value in that. And that's what things like artificial intelligence rely upon. They need that data in order for them to, do whatever it is that people are wanting to do with artificial intelligence at the moment. So that data is power.
Absolutely. And that's why it needs to be fundamentally also protected. And we'll be talking through this series about cybersecurity. There's data is immensely valuable, not just to individuals, but also to the enterprise and to companies,
and also to the bad actors as well, to the bad guys who want that data for whatever their motives are. Thank you a lot to pick up on there, as indeed we'll be doing throughout the rest of this series. We're going to be telling stories that cover the spectrum of technology, innovation, 6G, non-terrestrial networks, subsea cables, all the rest of that stuff. For now, Steve, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And that's it. That's all we have time for in this opening episode of Impactful Innovation. But the journey has only just begun. Coming up in episode 2, if the network is this nervous system of our online world, then the data center is the digital brain that powers the apps and online services that we take for granted. So we'll be lifting the lid on these mysterious stadium-sized computer warehouses and learning how they are going through a root and branch transformation to accommodate all of the AI stuff that we're suddenly throwing at them. That's in episode 2 of Impactful Innovation with Commercis. Until then, bye-bye.